Anitra, have you ever seen those videos online, like tasty videos, where someone has a whole bunch of food and they snap their fingers and all of a sudden food goes from whole to chopped up and nice?
Oh, yeah. Man, I wish I could chop food that easily.
Well, I can't give you that, but what if I told you there was a game where you had a block of food and you could pull different ingredients away in nice cubes that you could then turn around and use in your recipes?
Sounds weird, but I'm here for it.
This is a snap review for Diced Veggies.
Diced Veggies is a game for 2 to 4 players. It was designed by cousins Jory and Rowan Capel and their uncle and dad, Josh Capel, and it's published by Kids Table Board Gaming. The box says it's for ages 6 and up, and it takes about 30 minutes to play.
So Anitra, let's talk about the art in Diced Veggies. There's 2 types of card in this game, the relatively plain hype cards and the recipes. Each recipe card depicts its finished food, illustrated by Claire Lynn. I don't know that I would say they look realistic, but they certainly look delicious.
Both kinds of cards have very clear graphic design by Josh, showing exactly what they need to be completed and how many points they're worth.
The veggie illustrations on these recipe cards correspond to the colored dice: yellow carrots, pink onions, red tomatoes, green peppers, and tan mushrooms. Speaking of colored dice, some of the pips on our dice were not colored in. Hopefully they fixed this, but it sure was weird.
It was weird.
So let's talk about how we use these recipes and this dice. It's time to talk about the mechanics for Diced Veggies.
The game starts with a rectangular block made up of all the dice. There's a handy frame to use to get everything lined up. Every player gets 2 recipes and a hype card, along with a chef token.
Starting player gets the cleaver! They'll make the first cut into the block.
They must make a single cut, then push out some number of dice sideways. The dice that they cut out must add up to 10 or less for the value of all of them.
Take your new dice and keep them in front of you without changing their values. Now we're on to step 2, cooking.
If you have all of the ingredients you need, you may cook 1 or more of your recipes. Show everyone that you have the right dice, then discard them back into the frame and flip the recipe face down. You could use your chef token to change either the number or the type of a single die. If you use the chef token, you have to discard that too.
You might also apply a single hype to each recipe as long as you meet its requirements.
So something like restaurant quality pizza, where the numbers of your dice add to 13 exactly.
Keep that hype with the face down recipe for scoring.
At the end of your turn, you draw 1 card. You can either take a hype card from its deck, a recipe card from its deck, or a face-up recipe from the 3 that are in the display on the table.
Discard cards and dice if you're over the hand limit, then end your turn by passing the cleaver.
Let's talk about restocking. When you start your turn, if there's any ingredient completely missing from the block, you have the option to restock. Take all the discarded dice and all the dice in the block and roll them all into the frame. Also return any used chef tokens to their former owners. Shake the frame around to settle all the dice, and then drag it diagonally to make a new block.
Now you're ready to start your turn with a nice, fresh block of veggies to cut. The game ends after a player cooks their 6th recipe. After they finish their turn, every other player gets 1 more full turn, then every player gets 1 more chance to cook. Finally, everyone adds up the points awarded by all their cooked recipes and associated hypes. The highest score wins.
But what about younger kids? The box says ages 6+. The rulebook gives 3 variations that can make Diced Veggies simpler. First, you can remove hype cards and chef tokens entirely. This eliminates reading and a lot of the strategic planning and math in the game.
Second, you can just remove math entirely. Instead, chefs can always cut out a maximum of 3 dice from the block, no matter what their values are.
Lastly, you can shorten the game by triggering the end earlier when someone completes their 5th recipe or even their 4th recipe, instead of waiting for 6 completions.
So Anitra, what did we expect from Diced Veggies?
Well, the game's name is a pun, so we're off to a good start. And how many games come with a big cardboard cleaver? Cutting out the dice from a block is a really unusual way to choose them, and I liked that a lot.
Reading the rulebook, I expected that depending on which members of our family we played with, we would probably be trying some of those variations that we talked about too. But Anisha, was there anything that surprised us about Diced Veggies?
I found it to be a really fun game with good, interesting choices to make, but when we play by the regular rules, there's no way we can be done in 30 minutes. Completing 6 recipes just takes too long, especially with 3 or 4 players. When we played with 4 recipes kicking off the endgame instead, we still got the full experience, and then it really does take 30 minutes or less. I was also really pleasantly surprised at just how accessible this game is for younger children. The suggestions in the rulebook are great, and you could definitely play this with kids even younger than 6 years old, as long as it kept their attention.
I think that you hit on the big thing that actually surprised me too. I mentioned before that I expected us to use variants, but what I really didn't expect in the game was just how long it was going to take to get to 6 recipes. The cutting mechanic is novel and interesting. I really like it. And in a larger game with a bunch of people kind of like hanging out socially, it's easy to lose track of time. It's not a big deal. But if you're trying to finish Diced Veggies in 30 minutes and you're hitting the same mechanics over and over again, your recipes are gonna lose some flavor.
That being said, we do recommend Diced Veggies for families, especially families who love cooking.
But maybe tackle fewer recipes per game. There's only so much that you can eat, after all. So Anitra, we're gonna give Diced Veggies from Kids Table Board Gaming 4 ingredients out of 5.
And that's Diced Veggies
In a snap.
Not quite that close. Also, now you look like you're trying to give yourself a haircut.